Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and I know I say this every week, but I really mean it when I say, man, we have some great questions from Inside the Red Raiders subscribers this week. Just all around really good questions. So I'm going to dive right into them. First one comes from Texan44, who asks, he wants to know what are the top three units or position groups on the football roster this year, and where do they rank in the Big 12? That's a really good question. I think it all starts with linebacker. I mean, Rico Jeffers, Colin Schooler, Krishan Merriweather, Jacob Morgenstern. I got to see what Brandon Booyer-Randall does at that hybrid Raider position, but you just go down the list. They have some really good players. They added that Josiah Pierre dude. He is a hoss. Big dude, 245 pounds, can really run. He comes over after the last 2 years playing for the Florida Gators. So, and then they have some younger guys coming up that they've been developing for years. So that's really, you could argue that's the strength of the whole team, that just that leadership, excellent play. I mean, Jeffers, Schooler, and Merriweather are all Big 12 caliber linebackers. I was on Sirius Radio on the Big 12 channel. I think it's 375, and I've been on that show a lot. They're really good people there, and they have really good discussion about the Big 12 on that channel. So check it out. But I was on it earlier this week, and that was one of the questions, just about that linebacker core, and is it perhaps the best in the Big 12? That's how they preface the question. So, that's the kind of respect it has and deserves, that position group. And they certainly have looked good in spring. They're healthy. They all look, bigger. Like Krishan Merriweather's added 20 pounds and he's still athletic and all that. I just think that's the strength of the team. Morgenstern looks good, and he's going to help a lot. He adds a lot of depth. And he's so versatile. He can play so many positions for you, and experience. So that's just the strength of the team. It's just a really great position. And, they utilize it well. Under Coach Patterson, the scheme, it's really designed for the defensive line to tie up blockers so those linebackers can run around and make plays, and they certainly do. So after that, I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. I think running back actually is a big strength of the team, which it hasn't been for a long time. But SaRodorick Thompson is a bona fide, bell cow type running back, but he's also a home run hitter. He's very explosive. So if he can be healthy, he's a really good player. And I think the word for the running back room is versatility. And you look at a guy like Taj Brooks, who can do a little bit of everything. Running backs coach DeAndre Smith told me that Taj Brooks is the best pass protector of the group, and he's certainly gotten bigger. He had that really good game against West Virginia where they handed him the ball I don't know how many, 7 times in a row or something like that, 6 times in a row. He moved the chains and allowed Texas Tech to close out the win against the Mountaineers. So I like those two guys a lot. Chadarius Townsend transferred in from Alabama. I think he had kind of a disappointing year, I think, by all accounts last year. But he's bigger. He looked really good in spring. And I think he's poised for, a really good season. And Xavier White, I can't believe he's the fourth guy I'm mentioning, but he's also gotten bigger. He's healthy. He's done some local product, from Lubbock. He played some inside receiver and did that well. Played some running back and did that well when he stayed healthy. So if he can stay healthy, he's a very versatile player. And I know all 4 of these guys are going to be utilized all over the formation. They're going to do some fun things this year. So I think running back, it's either 2 or 3 on your team. Now, in terms of in the Big 12, I would say it's got to be top 5. Comparing, so I don't think it's better than OUs or UTs. I think most objective people with no dog in the fight, just looking at the recruiting rankings and all that stuff, would say those two are near the top. Iowa State, pretty solid, but I think Texas Tech is up there in the top 5. I really do. Oklahoma State, Baylor have some good rooms, but TCU. So, it's competitive. Power 5 conference, right? But I definitely think Texas Tech is in the mix. If what we believe about the running back room, and they have a bona fide guy in SaRodorick as a bell cow, and then the versatility and more depth, I do think they're a top 5 running back room in the Big 12. Then after that, to me, this is going to be controversial because it's either going to be quarterback or receiver. And I think I'm going to have to tip the cap to receiver. You got a first-team All-Big 12 performer in Eric Ezekama, returning. He looks great. He's back from that broken arm. He's going to be really good. I expect him to put up at least as good numbers. You bring in Kalen Geiger, who, like, if you just look at him, it's kind of, but if you watch his highlights, and he has been tearing it up in fall camp. He is very quick, very elusive. They give you a lot of experience there on the outside, and then inside receiver. I mean, Miles Price. You just go down the McLean Mannix has had a really good offseason. I think he's finally going to realize that potential at Texas Tech after a couple of disappointing seasons, after transferring in for some very productive seasons in Nevada. So I really like those guys. Dalton Rigdon also inside, and then also outside you have this group of really talented, really tall receivers. And I mean, you just go down the list. Trey Cleveland, 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", could really run. They really like him. Jerand Bradley, who true freshman who came in the spring, legitimate 6'6". He is just. I was talking to another coach at a practice the other day. And I don't know how they're going to keep him off the field. And they said they're not. He's going to play because he's just that talented. A guy that tall should not be that athletic, and his history as a basketball player certainly has served him well in that regard. And then I haven't even mentioned Loic Fawanji. This is how good the receiver room is in terms of talent. Is Loic Fawanji, who is one of the highest rated guys you've signed in a while, out of middle league, 4-star guy. He was down to Texas and picked Tech. He had a pretty good true freshman season. As far as those go, he had a couple really nice highlights from last year and really nice touchdown catch last season. So, look, Fawanji's going to be a player, 6'4", run like a deer. And then J.J. Sparkman is another guy. I mean, he's a beast. He just really is. He was injured almost the entire year last year. Came back in the spring. He was going to be limited, but he's like, no, I'm ready to go. He was just tearing it up there. He's such a big target. He is just great in terms of like a back shoulder fade kind of player, or jump ball kind of player for you. So, I mean, just so much raw potential in J.J. Sparkman. I think 2 years from now, he could be a potential all Big 12 receiver. And he's like the 6th or 7th receiver I've mentioned in this group. So, that's before you even get to the tight ends. I really watch out for Mason Tharp and Jed Castles. Those, I think Mason Tharp's up to 6'8", 255 pounds, and he looks it. I mean, he said he's 6'9". I don't know. Well, I mean, once you get to 6'8", I mean, in football, he's a beast. So, and Castles is 6'6", and he still needs to put on some more weight, but he's a very good receiver. So you have those tight ends in there with Travis Koontz. 6'4", 260-pound veteran tight end. You have some weapons, man. You have some real weapons at receiver. If you count the tight ends in there with them, too, then, I mean, that's a really impressive group I'm really excited about. And in terms of where it ranks in the Big 12, yeah, I'd say top half, especially. I mean, you got, I think I saw rankings the other day where Tech was considered to have the number 24th receiver duo in the country. So, and I think they were like 4th or 5th in terms of Big 12 teams, which, I mean, I could argue maybe even a higher spot or two. So, I mean, EZ being the guy, the headliner, of course, the All Big 12, first team All Big 12 performer, probably future first or second round draft pick in EZ. That really makes a good case for Texas Tech being in the top half of the Big 12. All right, Padres 11 asks, do I know how season ticket sales are going as of Friday? All right. Friday the 13th, September 13th, it was 2021 tickets right now, just under 22,000. And then student allotment is exactly 13,265. So the combined is, just over 35,000. So that's pretty low. But, I mean, when you consider coming off COVID's still looming. Consider the lack of success recently. I mean, I don't know what that is. Those are the numbers. But here's some comparison, though, in the past. So 2019, the season ticket sales were 24,198 plus a student allotment of 13,420. So right now, and this was at about the same time, too, of the year in August. So right now, they're, a little over 2,000 less than 2019. So again, this is post-COVID. I'm not going to make too many excuses, but I think if you don't consider that, it would be a mistake. And then 2018, there was 27 13,980 season tickets sold about this time, with basically the same student allotment, 13,466. But to put this in perspective in terms of how attendance has slumped over the years in terms of Texas Tech football. So in 2010, there was, and this is, I believe this is according to the Texas Tech Athletics, like texastech.com, their website. In 2010, they sold 32,227 season tickets. In 2014, I believe this was a record, 34,100. So, I mean, right now you're 12,000 less in season tickets. I mean, that's substantial, you know? And I don't know what the price differences are either. So that's where it's at. To me, I was surprised they had as many as 22,000 because of all the factors. Bottom line is they need to win and raise these numbers. You know, OU's not coming in this season, but they may not ever come in again. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to come up with something anyways. But bottom line is they need to win some ball games this year, create some more excitement, and get some more butts in the seats there at the Jones. All right, next question comes from Nas Raider. It says, with the transfer portal, do I view or see less of an emphasis on high school recruiting? Now, this is a great question because basically my answer is yes. But that doesn't mean that high school recruiting has lost all importance, because that's just not the case. I still think what it does is it allows you to focus on the targets you really, really want. And in my mind, if you're smart about it, and I certainly think that Coach Wells and his staff have done this so far, pretty good recruiting staff they have there backing them up. But what they've done that's been smart is not reach on guys they thought, like, maybe this guy might develop into a player 3 or 4 years down the line. You know, they're going for guys they like, guys that fit their scheme. If it is somewhat of a reach in terms of being an unknown quantity of a player, there's some, it may be a tangible, but or some kind of intangible as well to go, like it's a coach's son. So, you know, he's going to bring this to the table, or, you know, something like that. There's a reasoning, which is nice. It's not just, oh, I think we can get this guy and he's, you know, pretty good and maybe he'll turn out to be a player. No, this allows you to be like, look, we know if we don't get what we need from high school ranks, and maybe we need to be older at a position, you can hit that portal, and they've proven for consecutive several years now, they can find good guys, quality players with experience that have multiple seasons of eligibility remaining to fill that role. So, without a doubt, and I think it's destroyed junior college recruiting, because I mean, only the very elite are going to be plucked from the junior college ranks now. So that's what's taking the biggest hit, but definitely high school. De-emphasize is probably too strong of a word, and I know a lot of people want black and white answers, you know, but I really see this as gray. There's a lot of gray with recruiting, and I think, yes, it does. Well, it does. It's still important. It's just different now. All right, Blake65 says he's cheating with 2 questions. That's fine, Blake. You're a great poster. I don't mind answering a couple of questions for you. Speaking of the portal, he mentioned, you know, Cumbie is a running back from Illinois who just joined as a walk-on. Tech recruited him very hard before landing Taj Brooks, and then they stopped recruiting Cumbie. But Cumbie just joined as a walk-on, you know. He mentioned another linebacker from New Mexico State, Tyree Wilson, you know, walked on first before being put on scholarship. Colin Schooler did too. Some other guys, that's not public knowledge by design, that walked on originally before being put on scholarship. And so his question is, how is Wells and staff doing this? And I said, you know, here's my answer is that, you know, a lot of these guys that are in the transfer portal, they originally they chose a school because, you know, of a logo or a jersey or a girlfriend or whatever, close to mama, whatever, you know. But when they get later on in their career and it starts becoming like real for them, like if I want to play at the next level, which is what almost all, if you're playing Power 5 football, really your goal should be individually, after your team goals, of course, should be, you know, getting to the next level. I mean, you should have that confidence, you know, despite what the percentages are. So you want to pick a place where you believe you're going to A, have an opportunity to play, B, going to be developed, and then C, still have enough, exposure. So that's exactly what Texas Tech offers. They offer playing time. They have a staff that's developed players and put them in the league, both sides of the ball. And then they also, it's still the Big 12. They're still on TV a lot every week, and it's a really good fit. And I think this allows the coaches to actually let their personality get past, like, if a guy wants to go to Oregon or a OU or something like a helmet school or a school that's hooked up with Nike like Oregon. So that's the difference, and that's where I see that why these guys really shine is that they feel like if they don't get him out of high school, they'll feel like they'll get him a couple years in the portal because it's just a really good fit. So, and then the second question from Blake is, does Tech have any interest in the linebacker transfer? Cameron Wilkins out of Missouri is a linebacker out of Missouri. And yeah, it's my understanding that no, not right now. I mean, if some like a linebacker were to go down and they felt like maybe they had a need there to add some depth, perhaps they would pursue him. But as of right now, no. As I just mentioned, I mean, they're pretty stacked at linebackers, so I don't think they're. Well, I know they're not targeting Wilkins as of right now. All right. SM8588 says, since this is Kool-Aid season, and it certainly is, he says, and based on what I've witnessed, which Red Raiders win first and second team all-conference accolades this year? Well, let's start with EZ. He's a returning first team all-Big 12 performer. I think Sir Roderick has a chance, if he can stay healthy, to be, I don't know if he'll be first team, but he could be a second team. I don't want to say he can't be a first team, but you know what I mean. I think they're going to divvy up the carries a lot. But he's very explosive, and if Tech wins, he'll have a chance. I think that's the same with Tyler Shuck. There's so many good quarterbacks. There's, Spencer Rattler, Brock Purdy. I can go down the list. There's some good guys in the Big 12 this year. So Tech would have to win, I think, and he'd have to put up monster numbers. But Tyler Shuck has the ability. I mean, he led Oregon to a Pac-12 championship last year, so he has the ability to win these kind of accolades. But it's just that would probably go hand in hand, the quarterback accolade with winning. So they'd have to have a really big season. Surprise some folks. On the offensive line, TJ Storment was the second team All Big 12 performer last year. I see no reason why he couldn't be. I mean, I just saw him just destroy a veteran defensive lineman the other day. He is a monster. Storment is as good as advertised. So he's really going to improve the tackle position. I don't know if he's going to play left tackle or right tackle. I mean, logic dictates left, but I've seen him play a lot of right tackle in camp. So we'll have to see. And then I think Dawson Deaton has an opportunity. I mean, he's a 4-year starter. Good player. I think he's going to be in the NFL after this year. He looks really like trimmed down, but he's still like 300 pounds. He's ready to go. So I think Dawson Deaton has the opportunity. On the other side, while I really like the defensive line, I don't think any of them are going to make first team or second team because that's just not the way the scheme is. They're going to tie up blockers for the most part and really help the linebackers fly around. So that being said, those three linebackers, Rico Jeffers, Colin Schooler, and Krishan Merriweather, all three of them have opportunity to win first or second team. I don't think all three of them will, just for obvious reasons. There's only so many tackles out there, so many plays to make, but I think one or two could, and all three are capable. So I think it's just how it shakes out, who stays healthy, and all that. But certainly all three are capable of winning first team or second team all conference. And then Austin McNamara, the punter, I think is a given. He's going to probably be, first or second team. And then the secondary, it's hard for me to not imagine Marquise Waters being a first or second team guy. It's just going to depend on if the stats are there or not. But he's a good player. And then, will DeMarcus Fields step up and earn second team honor? He's been honorable mentions like at least twice, so he's right on the precipice. He has the opportunity, but again, the interceptions will have to be there. So, it is Kool-Aid season. Those are guys I foresee having a legit opportunity of earning all conference accolades this year. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. But, if I'm saying that, all those guys, I think they have a chance to have a pretty good season. And speaking of that, it's a perfect segue to my next question. Teeny Pepper, which is always a funny name. He says he thinks my comments about depth and quality of this team has everybody pretty juiced up about the upcoming season. He says he knows I've given my predictions about wins this season, which I predict 7. Regular season before a bowl game, 7 wins. He says, but what does a unicorn season look like for the team? If Tech can stay healthy, catch fire, get some good breaks, all that. Is the team capable of a 9-win season? Is it capable? Yes, but it'd have to really get off to a hot start. And I'm obviously that means beating Houston, being the two cupcakes right after Houston home cupcakes with Stephen F. Austin and Florida International, and then you go Texas. You go on the road back to back. So you have to, if you want to win 9 games, obviously you have to at least split that. And if you do that, start 4-1, and you get really into your season, you have the Kansases and the Kansas States and all, those teams. Because the end of your schedule is like, what is it? Oklahoma, Iowa State, and Baylor. Like, bam, 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 bam. So, I think, obviously the first 3 games, I think TCU is winnable. I mean, I guess Texas is winnable. They have a completely different coaching staff, so we'll have to see what that looks like. But I certainly think a 4-1 start is possible. And then, you should beat Kansas. Is Kansas State winnable? Yes. At home. Yes. Is Oklahoma State winnable? Yeah. You've played them very competitive. I mean, you won 2 of the last 3, I believe. You've been very competitive with them. So is it winnable? Yeah. Will you do it? I don't know. It is at home. I don't feel like you've been very competitive with Iowa State. Like, basically since Matt Campbell's been there. So there's no way I'm counting that as a win. And I have a hard time seeing Tech beating Oklahoma. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So that's 2 losses there. That puts you down to 10. So that means you got to beat Baylor, which I think they can, So, I think, to me, the Unicorns, I think they're a 7-win team. That's what I think they are. But I think if you win 8 or more, you built quite the foundation. I think it's on. No matter what happens with realignment, I think Coach Wells and his staff will start building something in terms of the roster. Quarterback play is set for the foreseeable future. I really like the guys like Donovan Smith and Baron Morton coming up. And Tyler Shuck has 3 years of eligibility, but I think if you have a really good year, he's probably going to test, go to the NFL. So, this is such a critical season. The opportunity to post a 7 or 8 win season is certainly there. It's not going to be easy, but it's certainly there. And if they do, I think we could be looking at an uptick. And it may not be every year, but I really believe, because the roster is going to be better, that Tech football will be greatly improved if they can have that good season this year. And while 9 wins is possible, like unicorn is a good description, I think 8 wins is where you're like, man, this was a good season. If you're Red Raider fans, I think you would feel like we had a lot of fun with this 8-win season. Panther Cat wants to know, how do the 2 prospects at right tackle really shape up? Are they quick enough, flexible enough, strong enough? Looks to me like the left side of the line will have to get to critical yards. Well, what's interesting is that, all right, I feel very strongly, I know that Dawson Deaton's your center. TJ Storman is going to be one of your tackles, and Western Wright's going to be one of your guards. I feel very strongly about that. I think that Western Wright and TJ Storman are going to be on the left side, but I don't know. Josh Berger is in the mix. Landon Peterson is coming up. He's in the mix at guard as well. And so then at right tackle, or it would be left tackle, but probably right tackle, you got Caleb Rogers, who played a lot as a true freshman, which is always scary, but he looks more like a, Power 5 offensive lineman in terms of his body and everything. He's certainly athletic enough. I think he's going to be greatly improved over last year. But then I think Ethan Card, he looks different. He's definitely in better shape. And one thing I didn't know was that he had a really bad back injury. He shouldn't have been playing last year, but he kept playing through it. And Josh Berger told me that Ethan was his roommate last year, and he said Ethan had to spend like 4 or 5 hours a day in the training room just to get enough treatment to be able to play, but that he wasn't it wasn't very effective. And you could really see that in terms of quickness off the edge, really gave him a hard time. So, does he look better in camp so far? Yeah, he does. I think both those guys are improved. How good are they going to be? My honest answer is we're not going to know until they start. Well, we'll know September 4th when they play Houston. We'll have somewhat of an idea. And then we'll get a better idea 3 weeks later when they play Texas in Austin. So, and then TCU, right? Bang, bang. We'll get an idea of how good those guys are, because those are your guys at the other tackle spot. How good are they? Just in terms of flexibility and all that, Rogers is flexible. He's athletic. Strength, I think I'd give the give the nod to Card, but they're both good in that regard. So they have opportunity to be pretty good, but I hesitate to just say that with like a whole lot of confidence because I want to see it, to believe it. Tech Freak wants to know how the offense will be different this year, football wise. That's a good question. It is going to be different. For one, they'll be multiple in terms of formation. They'll use, instead of just being 11 personnel, they'll be in 12 personnel. They'll be 5 wide. They're going to be like so many different formations. It's going to be more like what we're used to at Texas Tech. They're going to use motion a lot. Look for jet sweeps, a lot of RPO, screen game, but not like we saw before. It'll be different. I'm trying to think. There'll be some option game. I think there'll be some speed option. I mean, obviously there's RPO, but in a different way, like design speed option type runs too, because all the quarterbacks can run a little bit now that are on the roster. Tempo, they're not going to go fast all the time. I think they're gonna huddle up. They're gonna slow it down some, and then they'll have the ability to go when they want to, kind of catch defenses napping. So I like that way better, to be honest, than just go all the time. So it's going to be a lot different. And I know there's going to be a lot of what I'm excited about is like a lot of the 2-back sets, because like I said, I think the running back room is pretty stacked this year, and they're going to line the running backs all over the formation too. So what I like to have heard is that there's going to be like sometimes the outside receivers will be in the slot, sometimes the slot, and they'll be switched in terms of it's going to be more disguised for sure. It's going to be harder to predict where they're coming from. They're going to be able to decide pre-snap what defenses are doing because of the motion. I mean, I really like what Sonny Cumbie's doing so far. We'll see how it does. Like I said, September 4th against Houston, but so far I like what I've seen. All right, final question comes from Red Raider John, who says, in light of the COVID variant, do I anticipate, heaven forbid, a reinstatement of attendance restrictions? He says, and do I know what percentage of vaccines have been administered by each program, football, basketball, etc.? No, I do not. In terms of I'll answer the second question first. I know they haven't released a number, and I don't think they want a number out there in terms of how many. I don't know that for certain, but I don't think they do. Like the percentage of the team, but I know it's very high. Coach Wills told me that himself in terms of how many players have been vaccinated. And I know, like, in local media day, we were still social distancing, but old habits die hard, and every player would stick their hand out to shake it, and I was like, oh, are we doing that? And they'd be like, well, I'm vaccinated. Are you vaccinated? Yeah, okay. So almost every player I interviewed, I don't know, like a dozen guys, and that was like the same thing played out like that, where it's like everybody was vaccinated. So, they're not messing around. They know what's at stake. They want to play. And I know certainly for me, like, I wouldn't want to ever, put them in harm's way in terms of, and I mean like by missing games, by testing positive. So I would never want that to happen. So I certainly got vaccinated as well. So far, Texas Tech has been very, like, if you look at the ends of the spectrum of like kind of being very careful is probably the wrong word. I don't want to insult anybody because I don't really have a side on this. I really don't. COVID's a touchy subject for obvious reasons. I understand it, but I guess the way I would describe it is like, are they more likely to react to what's happening with COVID or less likely? And they're less likely in terms of like restrictions. They're less restrictive than other programs is the best way to say it. So, I mean, everything with camp so far has been business as usual as before COVID. I mean, I haven't seen an effect at all. It seems like everybody's been practicing. We've been out there most days. So, I don't think it's going to be, but I'm not going to predict this in terms of attendance restrictions, because once you start getting into politics and everything, it seems like right now the governor in Texas doesn't want to impose any kind of statewide mandate or anything. So it seems like it's been more like local government, like the city or school district or whatever. And I think if Tech is left to its own devices, they're not going to impose any attendance restrictions. So that's what I believe. But man, certainly don't write that in blood or even ink, pencil, just pencil. I don't think it's going to affect any attendance restrictions or anything like that. But we'll have to see how it plays out. This crazy world, this crazy time we're living in. But man, I'm just counting down the days to kick off. But in the meantime, great questions from everyone as usual. Thank you for watching, and until next time.